Hi tubers, welcome back for another adventure. So this is the big reveal, of there was a TV show on WGN. It was known as Outsiders. It was about, I don't know, what do you call them, hillbillies? A clan or a couple of clans of people who lived up on this mountain, and they were uneducated. They could not read or write, and they kept themselves isolated. If you left them, you couldn't come back in easily without penalty, and of course you have all the normal plot lines, battle lines, competition between brothers for women, unhappiness between fathers and sons, father and sons, and all that trivia. The person who wrote this video, and if you watch the first season, second show, there's actually a joust on all-terrain vehicles. They were kind of running these figure eights, and they had baseball bats. One had a club, one had a baseball bat, and they were kind of swinging at each other. And it's kind of a all-terrain vehicle riding, baseball bat swinging situation. The person this quad was in that scene, and the person riding it was known as Asa, and ASA, and Asa left the clan, went to California, became all book learned and all that kind of stuff. He came back to the clan, and he was in jail for a period of time. The stockade they had, kind of a cage, where he had a couple of people, I guess, who liked him and brought him some food. He was in there for 6 months, and then gradually they released him, and there was a power struggle between the woman who was in charge of the whole situation and the person who turned out will be revealed as his father in the future. And eventually, once again, the person who plays his father, Big Foster as they called him, kind of squeezed his mother's face, and she passed on shortly thereafter. And then Big Foster, as they called him, took over. Big Foster had a son known as Little Foster, who actually jousted with Asa. So that's kind of how the whole sequence worked. Anyway, so Asa wanted to come back to the clan, and to allow him back in, he had to do this whole jousting thing. This is the quad. They show them digging it out of it was kind of in the bush under a pile of sticks and brush, and all. It was buried in mulch. So they drag it out of there, they get it running, and he does this whole scene. So that's kind of the background of how it became a movie prop. From there, how did it come to be mine? Well, movie props don't just fall out of the sky. In Rochester, Pennsylvania, there is Cycle Salvage, which had this and the other movie quads. Cycle Salvage is a family business. It seems as if you have the people who I believe originally started it, the parents, I think. Anyway, right now 2 sons own it, and they have a few people that work there. There's a guy that looks like Cy from Duck Dynasty, except he's the shorter version. He's floating around. The son was helping out while I was there, and so forth. Anyway, out of the 2 brothers, one of them through the use of the junkyard and his connections in town and all, he provides things to people who make movies. And they were making Outsiders just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They say it's, Kentucky, but they were filming it in just outside of Pittsburgh. So his gig is to get them stuff they need for the movies, and he provided this and a bunch of other quads. Now, I got the idea that I needed to own this thing because I watched Quad Racers and I saw it there, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I think I would really, really like to own that. So with that, I called Cycle Salvage, and he told me there were 2 Recons left. And eventually you'll see another video where I show a Recon with a tail on it and so forth. I didn't take that one, and that one might have been a 4-wheel drive, but I didn't take that one because the airbox was full of water. I mean, literally, you take this cover off and it was full of water. Well, full of water means downhill through the carburetor into the engine, and I just didn't want to play with that, obviously. So I decided, okay, this is the one I want. By the way, there was a Suzuki there, the motorcycle's still there, and all that. So I decided I wanted to buy this, and we could all ask the question, why do you want to own a movie prop quad? I've been kind of after a Recon. I keep calling it a Recon, just for the fleet. I've just been curious about that sideways engine and owning one and so forth, what it would be like to drive this. It's old enough where I still kind of like it, but new enough where it kind of brings me into the modern world a little bit. It's quite honestly, it's more or less a 250X motor turned sideways, or 250 turned sideways. I mean, not too much. I mean, the parts are different, but the motor, you don't really expect to see all that much different on it. It shouldn't be a big surprise. Anyhow, I mean, basically, where the sprocket should go there, they more or less stuck a drive shaft to go out to the rear end. So not too crazy, shouldn't be that big a deal to work on. So that was one reason behind it. I was after an adventure. I was after owning something. I figured it could kind of be a mascot for my channel. So, given all those things, I decided I wanted to go out there and buy it. Buying it was not as easy as you would think. You think you kind of drive someplace and you have money in your pocket and they have something you want and you just buy it. Well, it turns out the person who actually owned it, the brother who owned it, was out making another movie with the same guy that made Outsiders, Matty, Matteia, something like that. I forgot his first name. Anyway, so he's out making more movies with him. So he wasn't there. So when I spoke to him on the phone, and he told me the 2 Recons, and I said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. But he wasn't there, and the brother who was there really had no clue about these things, how much to ask for him, and what the story was. So now we're texting the guy who's making a movie, who's all kinds of busy making the movie, and he's kind of like, yo, you're bothering me, I got stuff I'm doing, and he's not all that big in a hurry to deal with me and this thing. Anyway, to make a long story very short, gradually we hit upon a price. Penny Pincher from Quad Racers did better. He got his for $800. He ended up buying Big Foster's. I think it's a Suzuki. Anyway, he got that for $800, and I think his is a 4x4, and I think his all runs. I think he did a little better than I did. And probably I didn't do as well because, you know, I'm the third one showing up in less than a week to buy these things. So I'm sure the guy's thinking they're more valuable with all of us clowns driving from all over to pick them up. Anyway, I paid $900 for this thing. I've started it. I've rode it. I mean, everything seems to be fine with it. The engine sounds good. Everything's good. The battery's dead. The carburetor needs a rebuild. But other than that, it's good. I do think having this nasty burned up tin on the front is making it so it's not getting as much air as it could be. And when we were riding it, it was hot as the dickens out. But it did seem to be hot. It did seem, I mean, it didn't overheat, it didn't stall, it didn't give us any trouble, but it did seem hot. But once again, look where your legs are, right? You're basically wrapped tight around the engine. The quad itself is a nice quad. It's heavy. It's very heavy. So I mean, that's just one thing I want to mention about it. The recoil is out of it, or the string is out of it. Those are cheap on eBay. They're only $25. To be honest, my temptation is not, before I even bother taking that off and looking in, just to order one for $25 to put it on there. And it says to be genuine Honda, which means Honda's probably making those recoil starters in Taiwan these days. I do have to get the carburetor off of it and redo that. Now, where things become a little weird, this thing is supposed to, because of what it is, have this kind of, you know, Mad Max built from various scrap pieces. I mean, you can see, you know, how they did things to do this. This rack is extended and pieces of other racks, right? This pipe, they welded it right to the frame. I don't know if these are mud flaps off a truck or what the story is. They put these LEDs on there. When I was watching the video of it, I really didn't notice them doing anything, right? Some of this, I think this was naturally cracked. This, to me, looks like somebody did this deliberately, just to make it look like that. I don't know if some of these other marks on it are from actually crashing it. I don't think this thing started out brandy spanking new for the show. I think it was already used. Somebody put new tires on it. Those back tires are oversized. It is interesting. Probably what I'll do is I'm going to wrap this up now because this is getting way too long, and I'm sure you guys have heard enough of me talking for the few moments. I hope you enjoyed the unveil. What's the future on this thing? I have to rebuild the carb, and I guess I could do that with you. We got to figure out what's going on with the recoil. I need to get underneath here and look at that plate and get the VIN number off of it, make sure it matches all the paperwork that I have. You know, a bunch of trivia. It is interesting how they built this. For anybody who knows anything about all-terrain vehicles, having these Holy fenders, really not much use, because as your tires spin around and throw mud, it's just going to blow right through there and get you all dirty anyway. I mean, it might look cool, but not very practical. I noticed on the show that these things were kind of doing this and getting stuck on the tires. I saw that in the videos from the show, and it appears to be the problem here. One could put a bar on the other side or whatever and hold those out a little. So there we are. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the unveil. I want to thank everybody for watching and commenting and subscribing. Please remember to keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and get out there and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.